Check, check. That's 1, 2. Check.
Mr. Brown?
Before I call this meeting to order, are all the public comment forms in?
Mr. Brown? This is Wilmer, I think. That's the end. Is it off? Mr. Brown?
Is it on speakerphone? This is okay.
Hello?
The green light's lit.
Just bear with us, folks. We have a board member calling in tonight, so we're working through the technology.
See if we can call it. Hit me down.
The call cannot be
Well, we know it works. It's just not complete.
Do research.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, okay,
Call roll.
okay, we can
Not
hear.
yet, we were waiting for
Okay.
you.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, I lost you guys get disconnected, but I'm here.
okay. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Walters?
Here.
Mr. Sawalish?
Here.
Mrs. Roop?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here, loud and clear.
Mrs. Galbraith is here. Mr. Albrecht?
Here, please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we go on to the good news report, if there's no objection from the board, I'd like to move action item 8A4, approved property purchase, to after our closed session tonight.
So moved.
No, I hear no objection.
No objection.
We'll move that on the agenda then. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Coglanies.
Our mission statement is to empower each student to positively impact the world for a bright new future.
Thank you.
Well, we're very excited this evening. We have 3 sets of students that are going to be here sharing various accomplishments. I'm going to have Mrs. Perkins introduce our first group, our first treat tonight.
Yes, and so we will have to switch and move to the other room so that we can enjoy the performance. Our first group for our good news report will be our NJROTC from the high school. Then we will have our African American history class join us, and then we will have our scholars from Balmoral join us. But for the first group, we will have our exhibition drill team commanded by Rachel Perry perform a tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen in the multipurpose room. So if we can shift and move to that room for that performance.
So we're going into the small room to the students' performance. And they are ROTC, and we'll do that, okay?
10-4 to that.
You can leave that.
Mr. Brown, you still there? Mr. Brown?
Do we keep going? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. I was trying to get off mute.
Well, Mr. Brown, we will have to make sure that you see that video footage, and we will put it up so that our public can see that outstanding performance from our drill team. Before we
I heard the clapping and I heard the drum beat.
was a great performance. Before we get to our action report, we have only just gotten started with one of our three groups. We have with us from the high school Principal Marjorie Trish, high school teachers Heather Galbout and Mark O'Connor, and we have our high school students from our blended learning African American class. You will hear how when we encourage students to develop and use their voices for issues that are personally relevant, that they become engaged. Reading their request, we have Tay Massey, Destiny Williams, and Sanaya Jenkins.
I just wanted to add as well, we weren't sure if she was going to be able to stay to join us, but we also have Jasmine Thomas, who is one of our NJROTC members and also a member of our class. So they will be reading a letter that they wrote.
Okay. We're writing to you today to ask you to consider changing the name of the holiday that is celebrated the second Monday in October from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. We believe that changing the name will show that we in Crete Monee High School District care about the racial equality and righting the wrongs of the past.
In our class, African American history, we have been discussing the history of slavery and violent racism in America. We've learned that Christopher Columbus, the subject of the holiday we currently celebrate in October, was the first European enslaver in North America. Some historians consider him the founding father of transatlantic slave trade. Columbus transports stolen goods, resources, and people back from West Indies to Spain. In addition to his enslavement of the indigenous people residing in the islands of voyages, also resulted in the dissemination of indigenous populations through the seas and violent reputation of indigenous people who are attempted to rise up and drive Columbus and other invaders from their island.
Considering Columbus's violence and racist acts, we don't think to celebrate a holiday in his honor sends the right message to the children of our district. Many elementary school-age children are taught that Columbus was a brave explorer who discovered America, but our studies have shown that history is false. In addition, celebrating a holiday dedicated to an enslaver who engaged in genocide is disrespectful and traumatizing to indigenous people and other people of color whose communities have been impacted by the history of slavery, cultural assimilation, and racial oppression in the United States. Changing the name of the holiday we celebrate in October to Indigenous Peoples Day would show the students of our district and their families that we believe in racial justice and equality. It would honor the contributions of the indigenous people whose ancestral lands our district rests on. One of our teachers, Ms. Godbout, is on the district equity team. She told us that the district has written a statement that includes the following: dismantling oppressive systems requires a commitment to reflecting deeply on the culture, climate, policies, and practices of the district through an anti-racist, anti-oppressive lens, as well as a commitment to eliminating disparities within an organization. It also states that all groups are meaningfully and authentically represented in our curriculum. We feel that changing the name of the holiday we celebrate in October from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day would show that we are working towards living up to the values of the equity statement and the values of anti-racism and anti-oppression. Thank you in advance for considering this request. We look forward to hearing your answer.
Okay, I brought with me some very nervous Balmoral scholars. This is a big step for third, fourth, and fifth graders to do. So Mr. A, I'm Mrs. Van Kyken, principal of Balmoral. Mr. A is our assistant principal. He's passing out some packets for you board members, and these are what our scholars are going to talk about real fast. So at Balmoral, we spend a lot of time looking at data. And so what we like to do there too is also get our scholars involved in looking at their data and doing some goal setting around the different things they're working toward. So they're going to talk just a little bit about what you have in front of you.
Last fall, I scored 194. I wanted to score 204 this winter. I did score 198. My teacher and I talked about what to do. I'm going to study a lot at home. I'm going to try my hardest on my math test to reach my goal or go over. I didn't always study, but now I know I have to study if I want to reach my goal.
So Trinity is one of our third graders, and she's talking to you about this page in your packet. So her and her teacher got together. They looked at what she did last year and where she wanted to go. And so the page right after that is her plan. And so as she just told you, she didn't always stick to her plan, but now she knows that in order to get her results, she has to. So we also have Layla from third grade. Come here real quick. I got you, Layla. It's all good. Here we go. So Layla is going to talk to you about the first two pages as well.
My teacher calls each of us up to her. We talk about what I can do. I decide to practice my math facts and read. I'm going to keep working to increase my score even more in the spring. I know I need to follow my plan if I want to increase my score.
Very good, Layla. So Layla also went through that same process with her teacher one-on-one. So Naquan is one of our fourth grade scholars, and he's got this. All right, Naquan. So Naquan's going to talk to you about the last couple pages in your packet. Now, Naquan is a fourth grader, so his pages look a little different because, you know, with each grade, we kind of adapt the level of to what we're doing with our scholars. So here's Naquan.
My teacher called me to the back table. We talked about ways I could get better with my goals. I said I could do some of the computer programs every day and also do my homework. I can challenge myself with harder problems.
So now Naquan's going to talk to you about these two pages that look like this.
The things that I circle are my area of focus. These are the things that I could do better with to improve my goal.
Very good. So in both reading and math, Naquan knows that he has areas that are his focus. So this report helped break it down for him so he can see exactly which strands that he's going to focus on. So every single scholar in our building, second through fifth grade, goes through this process with their teachers one-on-one 2 to 3 times a school year. So we just finished our winter wave of testing, and our data is coming out, and it's looking very good, board members, if I may tell you. Our preliminary reports look very good. And so we're going to keep doing this process with each of our scholars in those grades. Now I have a fifth grader, Denise, and in her classroom, they've done something a little bit different. So they're looking outside of the classroom, and they're looking at how they plan for different things they want to do when they get a little older, or even, as Denise is going to tell you, something she wants to convince her parents to do for her.
This is my vision board. It is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be an author. I want to help with technology. I want to be more social and go to Europe. I want a ferret for my birthday in 2 days. I am creating a PowerPoint to show to my parents to convince them. My teacher wants us to start thinking about what we want to do and how to make it happen.
So as part of her learning in Mrs. Robinson's class, who's also here with us, she's one of our 5th grade teachers, Denise is creating a PowerPoint to get to her goal outside of school. So that's all something Mrs. Robinson has been working on in her class. So these are all the various ways we work on goal setting with our scholars, both in school goals and out of school goals. And so we're very proud of that at Balmoral this year. So we wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Well, that was all fantastic. Next up, we have public comment, and I was given one form here. I have no name on it. The public comment topic is Mrs. Jones. Is there anybody who would like to speak?
My name is Kathy DeVries, and I am a mom of 3 students in the school district, one in high school, one in middle school, and one at Monee Elementary. I'm also the PTO president at Monee Elementary. I believe last week you were given a letter that I wrote on behalf of the PTO in regards to Mrs. Jones. I would like to read that right now. Dear Superintendent Coglanis and School Board, my name is Kathy DeVries. I am currently serving in my 3rd year as the PTO president at Monee Elementary. I am writing to you on behalf of the PTO in regards to Mrs. Jones and her request to continue working as principal of Monee Elementary after this year. We, as a board, have loved working with Mrs. Jones for several years as both parents and board members. She has created a safe, respectful, and inclusive learning environment that enables our students and families to grow and succeed. Her vision for Monee Elementary is not just limited to our students and their families, but also to our community at large. One of her favorite PTO events is our community pasta dinner, which brings together families from our school, community members, and the support of local businesses. Mrs. Jones greatly values building partnerships with community stakeholders like this in an effort to make our school feel unified with the entire community, as well as enrich our children's educational experiences. We are so thankful for Mrs. Jones and her support, her vision, and leadership through this endeavor and others like it. We believe that Mrs. Jones has done a tremendous job leading Monee Elementary to be one of the top schools in our district. The recent passing of her husband has created new and unique dynamics for her and her future with the district. And we would hope that understanding would be given regarding this unique dynamic during the decision-making process. Mrs. Jones still has a desire to serve our school and community, and we believe she would continue to be a valuable asset as principal of Monee Elementary. That's the end of my letter. But in addition, I would like to say personally that I understand that the death of her husband and the back surgery that she just recently had has created circumstances where she's needed to be absent from the school for extended times. But I would like to say that personally, I have felt supported and connected to her even in her absence. She has been very readily available to me through email, and I'm sure to the rest of her staff, and replies quickly when I needed input for different things for PTO. I also think that the mark of a great leader, one of the marks of great leadership, is actually how well an organization runs in their leader's absence. And Monee Elementary has run well, even in her absence. And that I believe is largely due to the structures that she has put in place and the high expectations that she has put on to the staff and teachers at Monee Elementary. So I would hope that the extended absences that she has had to have would not keep her from being able to continue on as the principal of Monee Elementary. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on administrative updates, superintendent.
Yes, in keeping the board as well as committee members apprised of the happenings at the facility and finance committees. Periodically, we have updates from representatives of our committee, and this evening, we've asked Pastor DeVries to come and share a brief update on where we were at. And again, I emphasize these are just updates, and these are not necessarily action items.
Yes, for sure. But yes, thank you. Good to see each of you board members and community members. My name is Kevin DeVries, and I'm part of the facilities committee, and we've been meeting actually bi-weekly to try to put more dedicated work into coming up with the best and most equitable plan for all the communities in our district. As reported last time, and I see as one of the action items, is one of the main steps in any and all plans we've been looking at is taking down the 6th grade center and the dome. And so that's kind of 1A. Along with that is to find a place for our buildings and grounds or facilities to find a place, because right now they're in that place. So I think they've been diligently looking for that place. I'm not sure if they've found that or not, but that's part of that. Our most recent meeting, we all kind of were in this room and just looking at lots of different scenarios. And this is a scenario that we feel is the best moving forward for our district. And it comes in different phases. I'll just kind of tell you what it is right now. One is that to combine the elementary school of Crete and Balmoral and build a new school on the 6th grade center site. That's one major plan that's in almost all the plans we look at together. And then from there, we've talked about them pursuing building a new elementary school in University Park, which would house CSK and keep that an IB program. The site of that still to be determined. Then with that, looking at Talala, we think the best foot forward would be to upgrade that with air conditioning, things like that, as far as, and as well as address the life safety issues there, but keep that there. That gives each of the communities their own elementary school, which is a big thing that we heard back when we were talking through this in years past. And so that's a value that we think is needed there. Part of that as well would be then to pursue creating a wing on the high school that would house what is currently the MEC, Monee Education Center. And that would then bring in like a new career pathways center and house an in-house program there that's separate from the high school, but yet still there to be a part of that community as much as possible as well. We also would be looking at creating an addition onto the middle school because there's needed space there from what we hear. And so that would be part of there. And then we'd be looking to keep the administration and the ELC in the current building, but look to add a wing on in some way to the ELC part of the building so we can expand that needed program in our community. With all that, one of the thoughts has been that we would then, some of the older buildings that we still have, like the Monee Education Center, old CSK, and the old Crete Elementary, we look to those different communities to see if they'd be interested in taking those as donations from the district to utilize as possible community centers in each of those respective communities. So as Dr. Kara said, this is all preliminary. We're not voting on anything here, but that's just kind of where we're at. That seems to be where the greatest consensus is amongst all of the committee members there. And we have a meeting this Thursday to continue work on that. So I could answer any questions you might have, but that's what I got for you so far. Or if there's anything you want me to bring back to the committee, I'd be happy to hear those now. See you Thursday, Bo.
So yes, Mr. Brown and Mr. Swalich do serve on that committee.
Yep.
So they can certainly add any information as well as that. Many of you may have seen the article that was out in the newspaper that is in reference to, we have facility meeting minutes that are on our website. And so the reporter that did cover that did receive those minutes from the website, and that's where he gained much of this information, as well as a conversation with me at the time. So please check out our website. It has those up-to-date minutes on it for folks that are curious of what was going on. We're trying to be very transparent and public as far as the workings of these committees. And again, nothing has been voted on yet. There's still a lot of work to do. The things that still need to be done in order to bring a final plan, if you will, or a concept to the board for any sort of approval. We still are looking at which we would phase in first, how we would work the plan, but more importantly about the financing piece. We have scheduled a finance meeting also for later in the month to discuss the price tag on this. The price tag is about $109 million. So we are using the finance committee to look at this piece first because these have to go together. They're a package. Once these two committees are working through each of their pieces, we will come together as a committees of both to come to you, and we will then spend much more time really flushing out each of these items that was discussed in committee so that you have the information, the community has the information as far as the little bit more detail of the plan, the time frame of this so that people know about this. Also, as you may be aware, we do have a public hearing scheduled for March. It's in front of our next board meeting and committee of the whole, actually. And that is to share with members of the community our intent to go out and to have a sponsored bill for changing school code legislation from letting us borrow from 20 to 30 years. We have gone out and talked with each of our village mayors about this to garner their support. We've garnered the support from our state representatives as well as our senator, and we may be going down to testify with those committees sometime in March. So we are doing our due diligence in gathering support from a variety of community members as well as giving information out to the community as best we can. So please, if folks have questions, please either contact me or take a look at our website as questions come up, because we are interested and we are trying to make this as public as possible.
Dr. Kira, I do have one thing. People have been contacting me that they can't readily find the minutes to the meetings. Is there a way that we can somehow put the steps out there, how they get to those minutes? It's not hard, but they're not being able to find the minutes. And I think that's part of the problem is they're not being able to stay up to date. So if there's a way that we can figure out how to list how you actually get to those minutes, I think that would be helpful.
I can talk with our communications director about that as well. But currently right now, one of the larger tabs up there's a drop-down menu that says Future Facility Committees. It's in the tabs at the top.
And I think that's what they probably are missing. They're looking for it in the other. I'm not sure, but I just know that some of the community members were saying they're having a hard time finding the minutes.
I will talk with Natalie Nash, our communications director, to see if we can figure out a way to elevate that so people can find it a little bit more easily, because it is very important. We're not trying to hide it. So if we need to put a tab maybe on the front page so people can find it, we will certainly do that.
That would be great.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Sorry. No, Mo's not here.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that is not the most easy thing to find. And I think that, and for a person who's actually a visual, and I've already said I requested a hard copy because I like to look at things and I like to go through, and sometimes you just don't get what you're looking for on a website. So I would like to have a copy prior to the next board meeting so that I can kind of look through and have a working document so that I can highlight, where my interest is instead of scrolling through the website.
And what I can do as well is with my weekly updates, if we've had committee meetings, if those minutes are readily available, I'll attach them to my FYI so that you can see them.
Okay, great. Okay.
Well, thank you for
Community Future Forward. It's on the community tab. Future Forward.
Are there any other questions for Mr. DeVries?
There we go.
There you go.
I just want to thank you for clarifying that that is just a suggested plan. I know that there was some concern out that this is what's moving forward exactly as is, and that, there is discussion that still has to take place. This is only suggested. We just have a lot of work to do. So I just want to clarify.
Yeah, I kind of see us as like a dance partner, with the finance committee as well as really you guys. We're like, here's the step we want to take, but if your foot's there, let's step back. So it's a give and take. It's a process, And so we're really just dealing with, this is what we think we need best in the facilities. We're working some with the numbers, but really we send this to the finance and they say, hey, we don't have the money for that. So it's that back and forth. And finally, to you guys to say, yeah, this is where we should go. All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. All right, guys.
Okay, next up, the PLP presentation.
Mrs. Perkins, you are up again. I want to show each of these tonight for all of you who are to find it.
Okay, so Balmoral gave us a wonderful segue as we're talking about goal setting. And if we are starting at the elementary level, as we are introducing our personalized learner profiles for our students in grades 6 to 12. So they are called PLPs, and they align with our strategic plan goal 1 to provide a challenging and equitable education for all students to promote a pathway of life success. So the ECRA group that we have been working with for a few years has worked with us on our local growth model, which measures student success and growth. They have worked with us to create our district strategic plan dashboard, which will go live on the district website on Tuesday, March 3rd. And that allows us to tell our story. So if you want to see what all our data looks like, that will go live for our community on March 3rd. And then this evening, we'll talk about our personalized learner profile, PLPs. And in the future, we have our school dashboards coming to our each of our buildings in the fall. So Plp Development, it aligns with readiness standards. For students in grades 6 through 8, there are success indicators for high school readiness, and it begins in 6th grade. Again, it is a structured progression allowing students to reach their full readiness for the criteria for 8th grade. And then when students are in grades 9 through 12, it aligns with college and career readiness indicators beginning in the 9th grade, and again, structured for that progression to meet ISBE's college and career readiness indicators by 12th grade. And eventually, we will be able to move down to the elementary levels. So we have common tiles for all of our students. One is the GPA, and that is set by ISBE's College and Career Readiness of 2.8. All of the students have coursework. The attendance rate goal is 95%. We have our state and local assessment and benchmarks. We have a student engagement survey, which looks at growth mindset and helps them again to set goals. We have our extracurricular activities, outside activities, and students get to have a personal statement. There are specific tiles. One for the 8th grade is the IB community project. So those students will be able to talk about their individual community projects. And then goals for 9 through 12, they have goals, interests, their industry credentials, workplace experience, and then their community service. So who populates this information? So the district adds the information about GPA, coursework, attendance, extracurricular activities, and the industry credentials. And then students go in through advisory or other times throughout their day, and they add the information about their personal statements, their goals, complete their survey, outside activities, community projects, service, workplace experience, and their interests. This is an 8th grade sample, and this sample was taken before our middle school students started populating this information. So I will say, as of now, the sheet has grown. But if you can take a look at the tiles, it talks about what coursework the student has had. When the student pulls this up, they have a little picture there that we whited out for these purposes. But again, those students will go in and put in their information. The 11th grade sample that we have is a little more comprehensive. That student did go ahead and fill in that pentagon shape. That is their survey, their student survey, and so their engagement survey. So again, this is what the student sees. This is what parents will be able to engage in and have conversations with their students. This will go live for students and parents to look at and talk about together at parent-teacher conferences on March 12th. This is the back scenes of all the data that we use. We are currently working with the ECRA group to try and capture based on information that we received last week, to capture parents giving a reflection or allowing parents an opportunity to engage with their student and give them praise for their work. And so we're working with the ECRA group to create that tile in time for parent-teacher conferences. Finally, students are currently working and putting in their information. It will be available for student-led conferences that they will sit with their parents and families and have a conversation around that work. We plan to share the experiences. We have students coming to the March board meeting, and then we will gather feedback from both parents and students. Any questions? Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We're very excited about it, and again, based on that information, we're trying to get parents to be involved, and we're working with the principals and administrators to roll out a plan. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have the consent agenda approval. Do any board members have any item on the consent agenda they would wish to remove for separate vote? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Coughlin.
All right, item A, number 1, regular meeting minutes of January 21st, 2020. Item 2, special meeting minutes of February 11th, 2020. Item 3, special meeting closed session minutes of February 11th, 2020. For under curriculum, number 1, approve CM 201U special athletics state basketball tournament. And C for business, approve accounts payable. Item 2, approve payroll. And 3, approve treasurer's report.
Is there any discussion or questions? If not, roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yeah.
Mrs. Root?
Yes.
Mr. Sawawish?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Galbraith is going with an I. Mr. Albrecht?
I as well will go with an aye. It's a personal preference. So, motion passes. Okay, next up, we have our action report. First item is under business is to approve the demolition of the dome. Can I have a motion to approve the demolition of the dome?
President, I would like if we can have a motion to table the demolition of the dome.
Once we have
For various reasons, I will have it a little bit more vetted by the facility committee.
Maurice, Mr. Brown, first we need to have a motion to approve, and then you can make a motion to table. So.
Okay, so I first.
Okay.
Somebody needs to second.
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Brown, if you would like to make a subsequent motion, you may do so now.
Yes, I would like a motion to table the demolition of the dome. The facility committee basically based.
Okay, first, okay, hold on, Mr. Brown.
More on cost.
Mr. Brown, hold on.
Just like the challenge.
Mr. Brown.
Of the effectiveness.
Mr.
Yes.
Brown, we need a second on your motion before you can, so. He moved, I second, so. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, just for various reasons, again, the big component for deciding to demolish the dome was more of a cost component. And I would just like to say that I would like to take it to the committee, facility committee, share some things with them. There's a lot of overlap in the renovation and life safety with the dome and the sixth grade center. Even on the document today, we at one point back in 2013 was looking at life safety issues of just slightly over 3 million. And now I'm seeing that number close to 3 million just for the dome itself. That and various other things. I did locate a print to show how effective the dome could be connected to the new middle school. And again, there's some other things that I would definitely like to communicate with the facility committee and hopefully bring it to the board. So if you can allow me to do this and just one more month, if you could, be a little patient, I would greatly appreciate it.
Is there any questions or discussion? Motion.
You already have a motion on the floor to approve the demolition.
And now we have it,
Well, you had that motion, and then you had that seconded. You have to have the person who made that motion agree to withdraw that motion before.
I thought we could table a motion and then go back to the original motion. So we have a motion to approve. It was seconded. Now somebody's entered a motion to table that.
That is the way that I understood it, but perhaps you have a better understanding of it than I.
Then we would have discussion on the motion to table, a vote up or down on the motion to table. If it failed, then we go back to the original motion. We already have a first and second on the original motion.
You have a first and a second on the motion to approve
The demolition.
of the dome.
Right.
And then he
We-
made a motion to table that motion.
We should. So we can't, unless we have something, there's nothing to table until we have a motion on to approve it. Okay?
Does that make sense? Not to me, but it doesn't have to make sense to me. That's not the way I understood it, but I didn't feel comfortable going forward.
I kind of, just for clarity, I mean, I view it as kind of an outline. We start with the motion to approve. Somebody introduced a motion to table. Within that motion to approve, we would discuss that, determine that, and then you kind of come back out to the motion, the original motion. Does that help you kind of think it through? Okay.
I have a question. If we were to table it, how does that affect plans moving forward?
At this point, it does not. If we were going to move forward with this, we would be just setting the demolition for a time, probably in June. So what we could do, if we wanted to, let the facilities committee meet to discuss that, come back. I think we have a special board meeting in March, and then we have a regular board meeting at the end of March as well. So
Okay, so tabling it would not
necessarily delay it.
would not delay anything.
So here's my thought on it too. If we approve the sixth grade center tonight, then we can move forward with contracts and locking in the contractor. So if it winds up giving Mr. Brown, I'm just using devil's advocate, an extra 30 days essentially, and to go to the facility committee, he could, but at least we're locking in the contractor to knock it down. The only thing is, I think on record, the facility committee, I think twice made a recommendation. I could be wrong though. But
It was twice, yeah.
So I don't know how that works with the facility committee.
Also, wasn't the cost a package deal? So would the cost change when you're doing it two separate times? That was my understanding. I asked this at the last time this was talked about, and I was told it would affect the price, and it could be, Dave at Healy Bender told me it could be significant depending on what the contractor decides, just because he's held this price for so long for us. If we decide not to use it, he can't tell us what that new price would be.
I think
That's what he told me.
I think the price was about a little over $1 million to demolish one of them. They gave us a special deal to do two at the same time.
And Dave said that they would not give him a new cost at this time because we had a deal going. But if we decided not to take that deal, then he did not know what the contractor would charge us for two separate demolitions. That was what I was told when I asked.
As far as the facilities committee, this would give, if Mr. Brown has something new to propose to the facility committee, that we would take a look at it this Thursday. The facility committee would take a look at it and again, decide what a recommendation would be. And then we would be back here to make the same motion, whether it'd be a facility change in the recommendation, or if they stick with the recommendation, the board would still be entertaining the same motion at this table.
Mr. Brown, do you have new information to bring before the facility since it's been discussed twice?
I do. Again, some numbers, it's not clear. I got a drawing of the use for the dome as it equates to the new elementary school. And yeah, definitely these are reasons that people in the facility committee need to look at. It's true cost justification.
Cost justification.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Brown or comments?
I think I do have so much a question as a comment, because we have a board member that's asking a request to take it back to the facilities committee, which is a recommending advisory committee of the board, but the ultimate responsibility for decision making lies with the board. And so I think that and I think he said at the end last week about the 30 days. And so there's an element that says, do we move forward with the 30 days, allow our board member in the advisory committee to the board to be able to have another look at it, so that moving forward, all parties engaged, because I still have a couple of questions as well. And I'm not a member of that committee. That will allow, and so not to, and it still may end up the same, but at least we will have exhausted every effort, and everyone's questions, will be answered in the process. In 30 days, and we're looking at a June demolition date, and the June demolition date can still consist of both items, but at least we've allowed the opportunity. And I know this is going back a year, but it's actually coming forward another year with a new group of people. And so I think that just, 30 days, and we still have June, and we still have a couple more board meetings. But when we make the decision, we should be prepared to make the decision if the board allows for the 30 days for Mr. Brown to get his questions answered as a senior person on the board as well. So.
Okay, so are we ready? Any other questions?
Mr. Brown, would you be able to get me that information prior to the facility meeting so I can make the agenda?
Yes, if you want, I'll disseminate it to the board. I'll finish crunching some numbers. I got just a big preliminary number that justify that the dome is worth saving It's not the emotional part, because I have no emotional attachment to the dome whatsoever. It's strictly business.
But I think the question Dr. Coglini says, would you be able to have that additional data and information for the facilities committee by this Thursday? In 2 days?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Where is this information from? This new information?
Tomorrow,
Brown, where,
to Dr. Coglini and you, board president, tomorrow.
Mr. Brown, I was just wondering, because I know there's been a lot of talk about this topic already. Where
I'll
is
be
this,
up all night crunching the numbers, but
where is the new
I'll do it.
information coming from all of a sudden?
Mr. Brown, Mrs. Walters is asking, where is this new information coming from?
Where's the new information coming
All of
from?
a sudden, I mean, that we haven't had before.
It's information that we have already from the life safety survey in 2013. I think some numbers got crunched up wrong, and the scope of those numbers as it applied to the repairs needed. And I have a drawing from our previous architect that shows this. I thought our present architect that we're using, that we're using now, had drawn up this particular drawing, but it was not. I was able to retrieve it, showing the dome and the new elementary school working together in conjunction.
Okay, thank you.
And again, the whole purpose of the facility committee, for all practical purpose, was the cost to renovate the dome, the cost to address life safety issues. We asked in the facility committee, is the dome structurally sound? And there was no issues with the structure, so it was all cost.
But I thought another issue was it's in the footprint of the new school. Is that true? Or?
That was my
We
understanding.
have not even received a drawing footprint. We have some square footage. So this is actually a drawing of the elementary school. I believe the same footage wise, with the dome being attached to it. So again, put it out there and let it fall as they may. But I think it behooves us as board members, especially, and I heard board member Mitchell say if board members requesting this, I think at the minimum, we could acknowledge that, or we should acknowledge that. If it's not going to put the school district in a bind, and I don't think it would. I heard our superintendent said there's a time that we can allow this to the facility committee. So I reached to my board members, board president, and the superintendent to allow me to do so.
Okay, my feeling on this is that, we've been talking about bringing down the dome since before I was on this board, and it keeps getting delayed and pushed off and delayed and pushed off. And I feel, Mr. Brown, I respect you, but I personally just think this is another delay, and we'll have another delay a month from now. And so those are my feelings on this. So, but do we have any other, before we go to a vote, any other questions, comments?
The only comment I have is I don't mind supporting it as long as you bring the information Thursday and we vote on it at March's meeting, no matter what. We're not going to delay it again, no matter what. No matter what.
So,
if we can come to that agreement, then I will table it to allow him to do that. So that's just my opinion.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so a yes or I vote votes to table this until the March, or to table it, to move it back to the facilities committee, who will then come back with the expectation from the board that we would have the facility committee would present us a final recommendation on the dome at the March, to vote on at the March regular meeting. And a nay vote, if we have a nay vote, then the motion is not tabled, and then we would immediately go back in discussion whether or not to demolish the dome and go for a vote up or down to demolish the dome today. Is that
Everybody
clear?
on what we're voting on?
So
To not table it.
not to table it, to move on to a vote tonight.
The yay would be table it and bring it up in March. So everybody's good?
Mhm. Okay.
Confused and then somebody says, I don't know what I voted
So,
for.
okay.
Mr. Albrecht, I just want to make sure that I am getting this verbiage correct. So you are, the motion is to table the previous motion
Right.
to approve the demolition of the dome in order to entertain further discussion at the next facility advisory committee on Tuesday, February 20th, correct?
And to give Pride Facility Committee then time to decide if it wants to revise its recommendation to the board
By the March meeting.
before the March board meeting.
I apologize, I just need to make sure that the verbiage is correct.
Okay. Let's take our time and get it right.
To table the previous motion to approve the demolition of the dome in order to entertain further discussion at the next facilities advisory committee on February 20th to provide the committee the opportunity to
Present a revised proposal to the board.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Roll call.
Okay. Mr. Brown,
Aye twice.
you get one vote. This isn't Chicago. Mrs. Walters,
Present.
Take it this way.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Sawalish.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Mrs. Root,
I hope you remember this, Mr. Brown. Aye.
okay. Mrs.
I
Galbraith,
remember Christmas presents for everyone.
as long as you don't wear that hat. Mrs. Galbraith is a
I heard
nay.
that.
Mrs. Galbraith is a nay because I believe in sticking to my convictions, and I agree with Mr. Albrecht that we have messed around with this long enough. We keep saying future forward, and we haven't gone forward in forever. So, sorry, Mr. Brown, I'm going with a nay. And Mr.
That's
Albrecht,
right. That's okay. No cookies for you.
I am also a nay.
like I need cookies.
So we
Okay,
have,
you got 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses, so you carry. You carried to
we
table
had
it.
4 yeses, 1 present, and 2 nays. Is that correct? Okay. Motion carries. So item,
I appreciate it,
Okay.
my colleagues, I really appreciate it. And again, this is just how I see it, that will better the district, at least from a cost effectiveness. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Brown, I really wish that we would have done this a lot sooner in this process. If we've had this information all along, to me, it just bothers me that all of a sudden now it's here. So I have to go with my convictions, and I hope you understand that, because we have to make a move here. You know, so.
No, as I told the superintendent, that this is information that I gathered, and then as things were being conveyed to the board, I saw some numbers were screwed, you know, or skewed. I'm
Skewed,
sorry,
yeah.
skewed. And I want to dissect those numbers and show you what I think the real numbers are that's applicable to the dome and not being commingled together with the dome and the 6th grade center. So that's my cost justification that I'm going to present to the superintendent and the president over the next 24 hours.
Okay, I'll be
Okay.
interested to see it.
Yeah, I will
Thank you.
too, but March is it. Just that I'm saying it now, March is it. No, well, I mean it, March is it.
okay. Before we get a motion on the next item to approve the asbestos abatement on the dome, the way the resolution is, the issue, it says, if the Board of Education approves the demolish of the dome, asbestos abatement will need to be completed prior to demolition. Is the asbestos abatement independent of the demolition of the dome? Okay.
That is
It needs to
Okay.
be done. It needs to be done either way. Sorry.
I'm sorry to be caught on this.
Okay.
I do believe that there's still a motion out there, and now that Mrs. Galbraith made.
Should rescind it.
To approve the demolition of the dome, I believe that she has to withdraw that motion.
Okay.
Probably right.
Even though it's been tabled?
Even though it's been tabled until,
That's just the way I understand it. If you don't, if.
It's just hanging out there if you don't.
I think we're all very clear on what we've just done here, so I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Damn it, I didn't remember to do it.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve asbestos abatement of the dome?
So moved.
Wait, we're sure that this, if we were to keep the dome,
You'd still have to do the asbestos abatement.
If it sits there and we do
Well, I
absolutely
just
nothing
want
to
to
it.
just make a correction on that.
I don't think,
Board
yeah,
Member
I don't think
Gonzalez.
that's true.
It's not a legal thing that we have to do it unless that asbestos become a practical. But I'm in agreement that we do move forward to do it, so it's not gonna hurt us. It will do nothing but help us. But from a legal perspective, if someone can show me otherwise, it does not have to be done, because that means that we have to do it at every other school that has asbestos. So just from a legal point, but I think we're looking at $250,000 thereabout, which is what we proved for the old sixth grade center / high school. So I would definitely move forward to approve this.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So
The motion was made.
we had a motion, we had a
Yeah, I
second.
second.
Okay.
Mhm.
So any other discussion, questions? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell? Oh, no, I already got you. Mrs. Root,
Aye.
Mrs. Walters,
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next up is to approve the demolition of the sixth grade center. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'm just. Is there any discussion? This is based, this is the recommendation of the facility.
Doors of the dome at this point.
Say that again, Mr. Brown?
I said, this is a little funny, a little humor. Just make sure that we have the mindset at this point to stop the demolition of the sixth grade center at the front doors of the dome.
Well, we're gonna swing the wrecking ball a little extra farther for that one.
So,
Thanks, Bill.
okay. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Root,
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish,
Aye.
Mrs. Walters,
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye. Okay, next item, we've agreed to move after closed session, which is item BA4. So next up is curriculum.
Mrs. President is going to.
Yes.
Calendar.
Thank you.
Okay. Our 2021 draft calendar for approval reflects the following: a start date that allows us to end the first trimester at winter break for the Crete Monee High School, We will begin at the third week of August. We begin with 2 Institute days. Our parent-teacher conference will be on the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Those days are in our CMEA contract. The following holidays, Columbus Day will be renamed Indigenous Peoples Day as requested by our Crete Monee High School students and recommended by the committee. Veterans Day on that Wednesday coincides with the end of the first trimester. Martin Luther King's birthday is on January 18th for celebration, and President's Day on February 15th. The committee recommended eliminating Kazimierz Pulaski Day on March 1st and moving the district holiday to March 12th, which coincides after parent-teacher conferences on that Friday. We presented staff with 2 calendar options for spring break. Option 1 being spring break the week of March 29th to April 5th before high school testing. And option B, spring break week of April 19th to April 23rd after testing option. Option A received 66% of the vote. 350 staff members voted. For option A being spring break March 29th to April 5th. Also included in the calendar are 12 half days, which are school improvement days. As of 2018, parent-teacher conference days are considered institute days. Last year, we increased our number of early dismissals, those half days, to cover lost institute days. And that is our proposal for the draft calendar.
Can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion items?
And I appreciate not having prom the Saturday before Mother's Day. I really appreciate that, administrators.
Miss Trish is gone.
You're falling on deaf ears here, Mo. So roll call.
Mrs. Walters?
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next up is the personnel report. Can I have a motion to approve certified staff leave of absence, return from leave of absence, and educational support staff employment, leave of absence, resignation, intent to retire, and dismissal?
So moved.
Second.
I'm just looking through it myself. Any questions or comments? Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish?
Aye.
Mrs. Walters?
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next up, old business.
Yes, as the board has requested, we will be providing you an update on our transportation of referrals. Dr. Clark?
Yeah.
She'll be back shortly.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for blowing it up for me. So for the month of January, yes, that's it. Perfect. Thank you. For the month of January, you will see there has been a little increase. The focus primarily is at the CSK level, I believe it was. So I wanted to explain that on one particular day, CSK had a total of 4 student entries because of a situation that happened on the bus. So you had kids that were not sitting down on the bus, or that were being too loud, or that were moving about the seat. So they had multiple entries on a given day that reflected a few students. So you saw an increase at CSK for the month of January. The other buildings have been pretty much consistent in terms of that fluctuation between, the 9 and the 12 primarily going across the board. We still continue to see less and less bus referrals in terms that lead to suspension. So I will say that some of the repeat offenders that we were seeing have not been getting suspended from the bus. When we first started looking at our data, we decided that we have talked with parents. We had meetings with parents, we had meeting with students, and then if you remember, I said we started suspending from the bus. So I don't see a lot of suspensions taking place as we move forward. I believe the interventions that we're putting in place are definitely working. I'm also looking at the bus drivers themselves reporting more, which has been great for us, because now instead of just letting it go to the side and hoping that things get better, they're actually reporting that information to the administrator right away. And sometimes they're even asking the administrators to meet them when they pull up so that they can address the bus as a whole. And that's the report for January. Any questions?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
Market increase in Monee and Talala. What are we attributing that to?
The same. It's just the bus drivers reporting more information to the administrators that we were not getting before. So if you remember, one of the bus drivers that I mentioned in, I want to say it was November, December-ish, was not reporting anything. He was just letting it go. So since that conversation, and I think I put this in the FYI, we have had a new district manager for first student, as well as a new dispatcher for first student. We've met and we're basically all on the same page regarding expectations and what we want them to do in order for us to keep the bus safe.
Okay, I guess I'm still concerned because they were reporting before. This is not the first month that we've told the bus drivers to report. So that's a big increase in both of those schools.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, I'm concerned about it, whether they're expulsion related or whatever, there's still incidents. So I'm hoping that we're concentrating on what those issues were. I mean, you're not saying that those were multiple children in one. So I have to assume those are all individual instances, and we go from zip to 8 and zip to 7.
But they're not expellable offenses. They're going to be.
I get that.
Okay.
All of a sudden, when we've been down on them about doing reports on the buses, and supposedly are, we can't attribute this to now we're making sure they're doing reports because we were supposedly doing that the last 3 or 4 months.
That's true.
I do have concerns about Monee and Talala and what those issues were and what we're doing to correct them.
That is true. So what I am going to go back though and say is, with the new management, they are doing a lot more than the old management. So I can say, and I'm going to say, not going to say with 100% certainty, but I am going to say that I'm seeing more with new management now that they're in place because we're on the same page. I couldn't say that before. So I am going to say that because of them, we are seeing more referrals coming from the drivers. But I'm also going to say that the administrators are working really hard to bring those referrals down. They're addressing them as we want them to do. Any other questions?
No, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Any other old business? Any new business?
I would just like to say thank you to whoever organized today's lineup of the students. We really got a nice perspective on a lot of different things going on in our schools. and they were fabulous. We didn't get a chance to say thank you because they were coming and going. But I hope, Dr. Kara, that you let all of the administrators and anybody who was involved in organizing this, it was fabulous to see all of them and to see the young ones talking about their plans and everything. It was fabulous. So I don't have any specific shout outs tonight, so I'm just going to give a shout out to everybody that was here tonight and to the hard work that went into getting it all together tonight. So
I will
thank
pass it
you.
along.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can say something too on that same note. I would thank Dr. Conlon, the staff, the curriculum staff, and all the other administrators bringing these kids to us, even though I wasn't visually able to see them, I was able to hear some things that they were doing to perform, especially this thing Black History Month. So I really appreciate it. So thank you guys for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, we do have a need for closed session tonight, and post-closed session, we potentially have one action item before we would adjourn. So we'll need to keep the cameras on and everything in here. You're ready to go. Can I have a motion to go into closed session for the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired?
Second.
Roll call, please. I got the look.
Mr. Brown?
Say aye, but I just want to say real quick that I will not be able to participate in sessions. This was the ultimate challenge for me to participate in this meeting, so I really appreciate it.
Okay.
You guys allowing me to participate.
No problem.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish?
Aye.
Mrs. Walters?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
We are
Motion carries. We are in
At
closed.
7:55.
Okay. So
Good night, Mr. Brown.
Thank you guys.
Good night,
Have a-
Mr.
Good
Thanks.
night.
can match clothes.
It's so cute.
All right.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I gotta get another sheet because we're making so many
I don't know what made me, how that popped up
motions
there.
and yin yangs and.
Okay, we're back in open session on, where's our original agenda? What did I do with it? Thanks.
Do we want to take, are we going to take action at this and then go back into close?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So,
That's the proper way.
so with respect to action item 8A4, can I get a motion to approve the property purchase subject to seller's acceptance of terms agreed upon in closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Not really. Roll call, please.
Oh, he's not here anymore. Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish?
Aye.
Mrs. Walters?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, and now we have a need to go back into closed, and so it'll be this, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, yeah. Okay. Can I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Walters?
Aye.
Mr. Sawalish?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mr. Albrecht?
Aye. We're in closed at 8:51.
51 for the second time, yes.
And you say there's no action taken.
Okay.
Does that mean they can leave? Or are they gonna wait until we're done?
We got to come back out and adjourn. So.
We shouldn't be long.
Shouldn't be long.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and please fill out. Yes, we didn't do it last meeting.
Can I